Hi guys, I'm Alex Holmstrom, and this is the Alex at Bat podcast. And we have Jason Holmstrom. When it comes to anything to do with current athletic or throwback current sports news, we will always be at bat in any situation. And in today's episode, we will discuss, and Jason Holmstrom will lead us off.
So the first thing we wanted to talk about, pardon my voice, I'm a little sick on it, or allergies. But we wanted to talk about the Sixers' disappointing loss to the Celtics in 7 games and the subsequent firing of Doc Rivers. And I don't think it comes as much of a surprise to any Sixers fans. Doc Rivers has been with the team for 3 years. He has 5 consecutive Game 7 losses now to his record, 3 of them with the Sixers, I believe. Well, whatever it is. He's kind of, unfortunately, for better or for worse, gotten a reputation of not being a playoff finisher. And that was enough for the Sixers. And there's whisperings afterwards from the Harden camp that maybe Harden had something to do with it, or at least that Harden was displeased with Rivers. So I'm not all that surprised, but it kind of does. If you do go back and look at his history, he's a crazy coach. I mean, he's been in the league for 23 years. He's the second most winningest coach that's still active in the NBA, second to Greg Popovich, I believe, with the Spurs. And he's a Hall of Famer. Like, he's going to the Hall of Fame. But he's 16-33 in playoffs. And no other coach of his caliber has that small of a percentage. I think that equates to something like 33% of the time he wins a playoff game. And even though he has a 2008 title with the Celtics, the fact that he is 6-10 in Game 7s, he's just not known as a finisher around the league. And when you dig a little deeper in that, he actually is known for not only giving up Game 7s, not only losing playoffs, but also blowing 3-1 leads in playoffs. He's done that 3 times. Only 13 times in the history of the NBA have teams come back from a 3-1 lead. 3 of those times, or a quarter of them, Doc Rivers is responsible for losing. So you have Doc Rivers, the Hall of Fame coach, one of the winningest of all time, on one hand. And then you have the Doc Rivers coach, not a playoff finisher, fired from the Sixers on the other hand. What's your take on that?
My take is that I think the 76ers are in a win-now mode type of thing because, it's good that you make the playoffs, but no, like, if you're constantly losing in the playoffs, there's going to have to be some change. And this honestly reminds me of what another team did, the Denver Broncos with John Fox as their head coach. They made the Super Bowl, lost to the Seahawks, got absolutely dismantled. And then in the year after, they made the playoffs. I think they lost in the divisional round. And then, they've made the playoffs, always losing the playoffs. And then they fired him and then got Gary Kubiak and won his first year coaching there, a Super Bowl. So it kind of reminds me of that situation. I mean, with Doc Rivers, you got to, having that record, blowing 3-1 leads, having a reputation of doing that. Players don't look like themselves. Like, I saw Joe Embiid the last couple of games. I know, he was dominating the Nets, and then once the Celtics game came along, he was just not it. And I feel like with James Harden and the team, they just given up on Doc Rivers. It looked like they're giving up on Doc Rivers, and I don't think that that's a good thing you want to do. I know on the First Take show with Stephen A. Smith, JJ Redick, and the other person, they're talking about, the one thing that definitely helps a coach, saves their job if they have a good relationship with the players. And you saw that started to become an issue, especially with James Harden. So I think that it's not a good sign when you have players giving up on the head coach.
So do you think that the Sixers are going to be in a better place now? Oh, you know what? Before you answer that question, do you think Doc Rivers is the only one responsible for those losses?
Absolutely not. I think that the players, James Harden, Joe Embiid won the MVP, and I saw the round 2. I mean, round 1, he looked like an MVP. Round 2, he just didn't, he made his foul shots, cool, but, he didn't look like, the player that we all thought it was. I know